BridgePark Advisors founder here at Post 9. Thanks for coming in. Great to see you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
To Eamon's point, do deliverables matter less on this one?
Well, in all candor, a lot of the deliverables that came out of meetings when the relationship was on better footing was a lot of talking points anyway. What I do think is important is that we are communicating. And we are going to be intense rivals for decades to come, but rivals doesn't mean we must be adversaries. And we must find ways to cooperate. And the only way you're going to do that is through the intense diplomacy that comes from leader-to-leader meetings.
Bunch of takes today about China being under the gun, or at least Xi being under the gun, economically, foreign direct investments, their percentage of our GDP. Does that mean that he plays soft? Do we leverage that? How do we approach that?
Well, for sure it's true. So their growth is slowing, but let's not forget they're still growing faster than we are. Unemployment is high, especially amongst youth. President Xi is meeting with U.S. business leaders to try and encourage more foreign direct investment in China. So they do feel economically vulnerable. I think the key issue is going to be, while they are economically vulnerable, that we don't press them so hard that they lash out. And so we have a lot of interests where we have mutual agendas, and it's finding what those interests are to see if we can cooperate constructively.
But for business and investors, is it realistic to think that we can have a more open and constructive dialogue and relationship with China on the commercial front, on trade, on business, and a more confrontational one on a national security front?
Well, look, I think the business leaders in the United States and in the West generally have gotten really frustrated, Sarah, because we've had a lot of lip service of these sorts of meetings coming out of dialogues in the past that haven't led to concrete deliverables. That being said, it is a huge market and hugely important, and our supply chains are fundamentally interconnected, so we can't have an economic Cold War if U.S. businesses and Western businesses are going to be successful.
No matter what's happening with China and Russia, or China, siding other side in the Israel-Hamas war, whatever's happening there.
That's a very that's a very good example of where we have mutual interests. So if you look at the two fundamental catastrophic risks that could exist for the United States economy, it's in and around Taiwan, and it's in and around Iran. If we get into a hot war with Iran, then price of oil is going to go up, the delivery of oil is going to go up, and who, by the way, gets most of their oil from Iran and the Persian Gulf? Of course, it is China. So that's a perfect example where we want to use this relationship, and by the way, Beijing has a very warm relationship with Tehran, to make it clear that if Iran gets involved directly or indirectly in the Middle East, there are going to be consequences, and those consequences for sure will be felt by the United States, but will also be felt by China.
But I mean, the amount of direct investment from U.S. business into China is down dramatically.
15-ish%.
The willingness of U.S. companies to try and make an effort there seems to be certainly less than it would have been 5-10 years ago. I mean, is there really anything that can reverse that, particularly given Xi's own statements when it comes to just private enterprise in general?
It's hard because he is going to try and accomplish both things, right? Which is, he has taken had a much firmer direct hand and with state-owned enterprises in his economy, on the one hand. On the other hand, he needs our technology. He needs our cooperation to continue to grow the economy, which is at the center of the bargain that the Chinese Communist Party has with the Chinese people, which is, we are going to run your government. And the quid pro quo of that is, we are going to continue to increase prosperity in China, and he knows that he cannot do that without the West and the United States.
You think things get stabilized, to use a phrase that Eamon used there?
I think it has to, frankly, because the other choice is just a bad one for both sides.